the neon lights, mirrors of my troubled life. Through the streets I roam, got no place to call my own. Lost my direction, I know the reason why.
All right, well, welcome to A Day in the Life. We're here with bass player Cisco, the man with one name. Now, before I ask you what your full name is, we'll keep the suspense going.
Okay.
I want to ask you, what is a typical day for you as a musician?
Typical day is just waking up and going straight to my day gig, really. I work at Guitar Center and help do what it is that I do out there, and at the end of that day I'll go and play music at night, and it's kind of a repeated thing daily in that capacity. Obviously I have family and I go spend time with them, but for the most part it's just pretty much wake, go sell music, and then go play music, basically.
And how much time do you spend writing, or what about writing? Do you allot a certain amount of time a day for practicing when you're not performing or writing?
Writing kind of works hand in hand with practicing, so whenever I'm practicing, I'm always writing something. So whenever I write something, I'm practicing it, or vice versa. And when I hear something, then it'll spur me to just go ahead and focus on that. So practice session can last anywhere from about 10 minutes to 3 o'clock in the morning, depending on what the mood grabs me for.
You're an interesting bass player to me, because to me you're more like a singer-songwriter, and you can perform with the bass as the sole instrument, and put on a performance I think equally as good as an acoustic guitar player or a single instrument type of performance. But I never really thought of bass players in that way for the longest time, until meeting more innovative bass players. Do you find the bass, or when you're writing, do you use a piano or a guitar, or when you're writing a song, do you start with the bass?
I've consistently always been just with the bass, just trying to explore it, just trying to figure out what its own particular limitation is, and what it can and can't do, and if it can't do it, how do I get it to do that, and try to work around its shortcomings by design. And typically I'll find either a new way to play a new noise, or just find a new twist on playing chordal stuff, you know. And it's all about, I think, really at the end of the day, coming down to a matter of groove, because, you know, for me music is more than just the dazzle of tricks or whatever, but it's more of, you know, how does it make you feel, how does it make you move. And for me, if I was a flutist or flautist, I'd try to do the same thing, but I gravitated to playing the bass and have always stuck that way. I'm sure I could do the same thing with using like guitar or piano if I put myself in that mindset, you know. Same thing with the voice. The voice is also another tool, just like the bass is, and it's all about how can I make that tool groove, and then get you to catch on to that as the listener.
And what drew you to that, or what was your earliest influence, do you think, that influenced what you're doing now?
The one influence that probably gravitated the whole entire thing was a local musician actually here in the Houston area. His name's Ken Valentino, and I had basically got a lot of on-the-job training playing with him when he finally asked me to come and sit in and play. And we recorded bootlegs from Boondoggles as a result of it, which is hanging up there at Boondoggles, as you know. And it was a 2-year training, if you will, of playing, because it was like trying to find your own voice and trying to figure out how to keep the groove going and not lose the momentum and still let all the other players do what they shine and support them in that role. So by watching him and seeing how he did it forced me to kind of figure out, how do I make my own voice do the same thing but still keep a supporting role involved in all that. And so I would go and play with a bunch of other musicians and get the idea of how other musicians play their instruments, and it's kind of cool because I get to learn by proxy, even though I'm just playing a simple root setup and playing simplistic lines. It used to be that before I got into this mindset, I would get so offended that, you know, when we go record stuff, people would tell me, "No, man, it's too busy. You need to back that off." And I would get so offended because I was like, "No, that's how I am. This is where I'm. This is shining now, you know." And I didn't get that. It didn't click until after I found out what my role is, and seeing what my role was, it allowed me to push those borders out beyond just the capacity of the instrument itself and what its initial role is supposed to be.
And you mentioned playing starting off in school, in elementary school, playing the tuba.
Yeah.
And then you're 21 years old in Germany in the Army, and that's where you first picked up the bass?
Exactly, yeah.
And how did that happen?
I'd gone into the service with the prospect of doing something with my life, and I would go to the rec center and play keyboards and guitars and stuff just to get my mind off the stress of the time that I was in the military. And so one day a couple guys came up and they asked me to come and play bass, and this is where I was like, oh, okay, well, I've never played bass before, but I've played tuba and I've done that for a while, and I kind of get the idea of what it's supposed to do, so I'll translate that. And after that, we kind of made a lot of originals that were just moving. It was really nice. It was real rocking and stuff. And again, in its infancy, I'm still playing in a way that was just straight driving and rock bass kind of stuff. And when all of that had transpired and gone to the wayside, I think it had been about 12 years of doing that kind of stuff. And typically, you run into two choices as a musician of rock origin, that if you hadn't grown in some capacity, in some direction, you were basically either going to quit doing it or you were going to just keep going down that same path. And what I found is that I wanted to play the instrument even if I didn't have anybody to play it with. And so to do that, I had to kind of force myself to grow my own voice into it. And it was really an eye-opener when I found out how to do it. And it was as simple as something that I could have started many years back, but it was such a vague concept that I didn't know how to put it together until, again, I started playing with Ken. So, and that's when it put it all into focus, and I was like, oh yeah, this is how this works.